Attack on Titan, Chapter 122, titled To You, 2,000 Years Ago, opens up with Historia being told the tale of young Ymir, the girl who made the deal with the devil. And this is told from the point of view of Frida Reese, who seems, it's almost as if you're looking through her eyes at this exact moment that she's talking to Historia about this girl. A girl she described as very much like Historia, kind and always putting others first. And the sad thing about the tale of Ymir that we see here is that couldn't be further from the truth, as her village was sacked, raided, her people's tongues cut out, and they were made to be slaves by these people, the strong overtaking the weak. And young Ymir was just a servant, a slave, doing all she could to survive. Now, there came a point when the ruler of these people spoke out amongst the slaves that someone had let their pigs escape. And, in the threat of gouging out one of everyone's eyes, they demanded that whoever was the culprit be pointed out or step forth. And every one of Ymir's fellow slaves pointed her out. And it's hard to say if Ymir was actually the one to blame. It almost feels like she was just a scapegoat. It really is hard to say. But Ymir can't deny it. Ultimately, she has no tongue. How could she even deny it? And so, this king, this ruler, lets her go to be hunted down by dogs and people firing arrows into her. It's just such a tragic sight. She's crying at the cruelty of it all. And then she stumbles upon this massive looking tree, and she enters the base of it, only to fall into what seems to be a massive pool of water. And as Ymir seems to drown within the base of this tree, this root-like object, it almost looks like a spinal cord. And I've even had people point out that it looks like this depiction of a prehistoric worm of ancient times long past. And so, as she gets closer to this object, maybe even the devil that she apparently made the deal with, it connects to the base of her spine, and the hunters who were chasing her down then see it as the tree falls over, and out erupts the founding Titan, as Historia has become the very first Titan. But whereas you might think that that Ymir, I think I was saying Historia throughout this, Ymir would have become this massive being who gained revenge upon those who had so, completely just taken her down at every turn, who actually hunted her and all this. She does not. In fact, the tales that Grisha had heard all those years ago about how the ancestor Ymir had helped create the roads, plowed the land, erected bridges, done all this for the people of Eldia, it was all true. But not out of the goodness of her heart. It was because she was a slave to the Eldian people. And her reward for all of this? Her reward was to bear the children of the Eldian king, Fritz. This man did nothing but use Ymir at every possible turn to crush the enemy forces in Marley. She bared 3 children for King Fritz, namely Rose, Sheena and Maria, the walls that we have become so familiar with in the Attack on Titan world. And as a great nation was built in the Fritz name, there came a point where the Marleyan people stepped before and were subjugated to the the king of the King Fritz. But one of them actually hid a spear in the dirt, and as he knelt down to show fealty to King Fritz, he launched the spear directly at him, only for, to what a lot of people were surprised by, Ymir to take the hit. And this is all because she was ultimately still just a slave to this man. Maybe she felt that, this was her duty for someone who cared for her, who found value in her, who loved her, as it were. But as she laid on the ground, the life fading from her, as her children gathered around and mourned her, all King Fritz had to say was, "Get up. I know you can't die from a mere spear. In the end, you have to get up and work, because it's all you were born for, my slave Ymir." And that was it. Those cruel words were the last things Ymir heard in this life. That she had to get up and work because she was a slave to the Fritz family, her supposed family. And even in death, her duty was not done, as Fritz had her body chopped into pieces and had his daughters, much like in one of the ending clips, for one of the ending songs that we had seen for Attack on Titan, where you see the three girls seemingly consuming the body of this person. That's what it was depicting. All that time ago, all before we even found out a lot about all this stuff. It really makes you wonder how directly the creator worked with the animation company. Or maybe we heard about it before. It's really hard to say, how deeply involved Isayama was with all of this. But, the three girls were made to eat the flesh of their mother so that they might, gain her powers. And thus, the Fritz bloodline still continued to strike forth. On Fritz's deathbed, he told his daughters to bear more children, carry on Ymir's bloodline, and when after they had grandchildren of their own, their grandchildren would eat their spines, and that when their children died, it would go on, so on and so forth. So that even after the original Fritz, the original devil, died. Because I do believe that King Fritz, was the very devil that apparently, Ymir made the deal with. That's why she struck out. That's why she did all these things. Because there was a devilish man with evil ambitions to make it so that Eldia would continue to invade, to terrorize, to grow in power, that it would continue to dominate no matter what, that the Titans would reign over the world for all of eternity, that Fritz's reign would never end. And so in the origin of all Titans, Ymir worked as a slave to the Fritz legacy, building the bodies of Titans. But Eren, having seen all of this, having experienced all the pain and suffering that Ymir had felt, he was done with all of this. He wanted all of this to end. He asked, he begged, he commanded Ymir to give him the power, telling her, "You're not a slave, you're not a god, you're a human. You're not supposed to obey anyone." Because Eren is an advocate of freedom of all things. Knowing that even in a past life, even in the past, a holder of his very bloodline was subject to something so cruel, that he wants her to decide for herself, decide here and now. And with Aaron completely blocking out Zeke's words, to demanding that Ymir continue forward and make it so that all people, all descendants of Ymir would no longer be able to have children. Aaron continued on, begging Ymir to make her own choice, whether or not she would stay in this godforsaken plane of existence, just creating more and more titans, being a slave, or would she just put an end to it, all here, all now. He even questioned as if maybe Ymir was the one who led him down this path from the beginning. That all this time she was waiting, that she sent him a message 2,000 years ago. And it is then that we finally see Ymir's eyes. The eyes of someone who has been broken, beaten, and abused, but still was able to gain the slight glimpse of hope that maybe all of this could come to an end. And in that instant, in the real world, we see that bizarre looking spinal attachment grow out of Aaron as Zeke was catching his head. We see the walls, the very walls around everyone, crumble. We see Peck, Mikasa, and Armin, who were fighting, see the walls crumble. Theo, Flock, everyone notices it. Gabby, having struck down Aaron, notices it. Jean, Reiner, Connie, they all notice it. But Reiner's only thought is of saving Gabby, who is directly underneath the collapsing walls. As the titans who make up the walls have been unleashed, and Aaron blossoms out once more into his titan form. Aaron's plan cannot be stopped. It is all over. The rumbling will soon begin. My God, what an exciting chapter. We are in such full gear at this point. It is insane that, all that time ago, we've looped around to that very first chapter, that maybe Ymir was the one who set all of this in motion in more ways than one. That in truth, she was the one who kicked all of this off. Because she was tired of her suffering. She was looking for someone who had it within them to possibly even gain the revenge that she had been craving. Like, man, that really tells you we're at the end game. To you from 2,000 years ago. From you 2,000 years ago. We've come almost full circle at this point. And it really makes you wonder. And the fact that the original Titan seemed to be like a parasite that bonded itself to Ymir, it really kind of makes you wonder what this creature truly is. What that tree even was. Is it magical? Is it scientific? What is it? And the fact that Ymir was eaten raw by her very own children. Just, God. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of hungry for some Ymir sandwiches. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Aaron's Talk No Jutsu game was on point throughout this. Or maybe this was always what it was supposed to be. And to see that the Fritz family was the true villain once again. The king within the walls and all that good stuff. Like, man. And seeing OG Ymir after all this time. And Aaron's drive for true freedom. It just continues to blossom out into this incredible storyline. And I can't tell where it's going to go from here. Will the earth just be flattened? Will Ymir gain her revenge? Will Eren set out from here on out to destroy all enemies in every direction? Will Yelena's plan of just, it's even harder I can't even tell whose plan it was with all the deceptions going on. But will it just serve as a threat to the rest of the world? And ultimately, will Mikasa and Armin be saved, as the owl once said to Grisha? Will this possible timeline, this time loop, be solved? Tell me your feelings, thoughts, and theories in the comment section below. I know the new chapter has already come out, but I'm behind as all get out, so maybe have this serve as a recap for you. Who knows? But if you like this, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. This way you never miss out on when I get around to more Attack on Titan chapter reviews. And if you want to see more just of my content in general, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere, for better or for worse. Believe me, it won't take 2,000 years for me to get to more Attack on Titan content. But until then, I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye.